Welcome to The Total You, and I am your host, Evangelist and First Lady Vorice Wallace. Today, I welcome you because we're going to talk about something that to me is very prevalent in our society, and that's called stress. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. We didn't really look at stress until around the 1975s when they started populating the fact that stress was going to hurt us. So let's first look at what stress really is. And I'm going to read this. It says, the dictionary describes it as a mental, emotional, or physical tension, strain, or distress. And we can also add feeling pressured or upset. Now, many of us can relate to that. An all too familiar thing that we all feel pressured, distressed, pushed beyond our own limits. But I can tell you, we're living in a time now that is very fast-paced. But we, as a people, make ourselves live in a fast-paced world. And that's why I want to talk about today. The Word says in John 17:14 that we're not of the world. Well, what do you mean? I'm living in this world. But you know what? The world has a way of doing things that's totally different from the world of the church. And if you look at it, I'm going to give us an alternative way of looking at stress. Because the world can go off on stress and they can go off on the deep end. We've got people who are making stress they're so stressed out now that they're going around and killing people. They're going around and killing themselves and the rest of their families. They're jumping off of bridges. We just had a young man who wanted to die. And so what did he do? He goes and takes a gun so the police can shoot him. Stress is making us make so many decisions that are off the wall and so wrong. So we need to discuss what this stress is, and not only discuss it, because we know that we're going through stress, but then how to stop us from getting so stressed and hung out that we don't have any recourse. All right? Remember I said that we're not of this world. And because we're not of this world, we have another alternative way of responding to stress. Do you know you're in charge of this body? You know how you can relate and make yourself respond to stressors that's totally different. One person can respond one way and another person can respond a totally different way. What makes the difference is our attitude toward that stressor. What's causing you the stress? Is it your kids? Is it your family members? We've got to learn how to respond a different way. Okay? The Word of God says in John 14:27, let not your hearts be troubled. Be not afraid. I leave you with my peace, and I give it to you. You are not of this world. Wait a minute. If God is leaving us with peace, shouldn't we be walking in that peace? Okay? He also said, let not your hearts be troubled. So how do you not be troubled? It's because you're walking in that peace that God has given you. You have to accept the fact that you're in charge of how you respond. Your attitude. Are you responding and getting all bent out of shape because somebody said something to you the wrong way? Oh my goodness. And that's what most people are doing. We have an avenue that makes us not respond a certain way. They used to tell us in the old times, count to 10. And what's wrong with that? You start counting to 10 before you start going off on somebody. You start counting to 10 before you start responding to somebody who's pushed your button. You start counting to 10. And it tends to get you down. It revs you, instead of revving you up, it calms you down. And that's what it's supposed to be. But we've gotten to the point nowadays where we count to 10 just so we can go off on the person after we've counted to 10, instead of counting to 10 so we can bring ourselves down. Okay? So we've got to make it a concerted effort to change how we respond to the stressors. Okay? We don't have to react to stress the way the world does. We have the power that God has given us to change that. And we can take different approaches. Wait a minute. I've got the power to do that? Yes, we do. And if we read the Word of God, and I know I'm coming at you with the Word of God, but if the world is going off cockeyed regarding stressors, why wouldn't you try something different? Okay? So we're going to try the Word. And if you look at Luke 10:19, it says, "Behold, I have given you authority and power to trample upon serpents and scorpions," that's both physical and mental strength and ability, "over all the power that the enemy possesses, and nothing shall in any way harm you." Now who's talking? Jesus is telling us that he has equipped us to overcome this world. All those serpents and those scorpions, those physical and mental distresses, he's given us a way out, and we have that authority. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me I've got authority over this body? I'm sorry, but yes, you do. Your body is not in charge of you. You're in charge of your body. So if you don't want to be stressed, respond to your stressors in a different way. Okay? We have to make ourselves become more stress-free and more obedient to what the Word of God says. So what do? One thing that we have a tendency of doing is always saying yes when somebody asks us to do something. So we're overcommitting ourselves. Are you really doing too much? Have you got so much on your schedule that you can't even take a break? Well, one of the things I've noticed is people say, "I don't have time for exercise." So what are you doing that you don't have time for exercise? What are you doing that you don't have time to sleep? What are you doing that you don't have time? You need to evaluate that. Are you saying yes to other things that you shouldn't be saying yes to? Are you overcommitting yourselves to do projects that you really, really don't have the time to do? I know of people who are going back to school, and they say they want to go back to school, but they forget there's homework after school. You still got to take care of all the other responsibilities that you were taking care of before that. So we're not counting up the cost of what we're saying yes to before we commit ourselves. That's number one. Don't overcommit yourself. Stop saying yes to everything. Number two, and that goes right along with the first one, are you overextending yourselves? We had one case where we have planned our schedules out so strictly that we don't have time for certain things, and we set ourselves a goal. Okay, I've got such and such to do today, and I've got to do it before a certain time. And you're pushing yourself, and you're pushing yourself, and you're pushing yourself. You're making yourself stressful, and nobody else is doing it but you. You're the one who's overextending yourself by you. Wait a minute, nobody else set your schedule but you. So if you've got to go pick up the kids, take them to ballet dancing, or you got to take them to volleyball, or you got to take them to baseball training, don't forget you got to cook the dinner, don't forget you got to clean the house, don't forget you got to do a presentation for the boss, don't forget you got to do a meeting, then schedule it. Don't make everything all on the same day. And if you can't do it in one day, then make it over for the next day. Don't overextend yourselves, all right? We had one person who was set their schedule up so bad that when she went to do shopping, she was pushing herself, and the Lord was telling her, you need to just go home. This is her day off now. Go home, be with your family. But she had so many things she wanted to accomplish in that one day. She kept on pushing herself. God was saying, you need to go home. Instead of doing that, she kept on pushing herself. By the time she got home, she was worn out, stressed up to the max. She was irritable. She was complaining a lot. She took it all off on her family. So instead of her having a nice family day, she took it out on her family, and nobody enjoyed themselves when she got home. And if she had just taken her time and said, I'll wait until tomorrow to finish the rest of those chores, she would have gotten home, she would have been able to rest, she would have been able to enjoy her family. Isn't that what it's about? We're overextending ourselves. We're running ourselves into the ground. Another one, learn how to be more flexible. Isn't that what I just said? We make our schedule, but we're not flexible in it. Learn how to adapt to the situation. If it's not going one way, why are you trying to push it? We have a tendency of pushing square pegs into round holes. And when it don't go, instead of us stepping back and reassessing the situation, we want to keep on pushing it in. We're not flexible. We're not adaptable. We just want it our way. And if it's not our way, we get upset. And wait a minute. If a person is wanting it their way all the time, and they're not willing to accept another person's way or their viewpoint, and they're pushing their agenda all the time, they're stressed. And nobody's making them stressed but themselves, because they're not willing to be flexible. And isn't that it? We've got to learn to be adaptable. There's nothing wrong with saying, okay, let's try it your way. We have a tendency now, another word that we've gotten used to instead of stress is called burnout. Burnout is when we have pushed ourselves past the physical and emotional limits. When a person is stressed over and over and over again, and they don't get that release from that stress, the body starts responding. Uh-oh. People start having headaches. People start having ulcers. People start getting sick. People start falling asleep while they're driving. Extreme fatigue. Insomnia. They start having, instead of relaxing, their bodies are all up in knots. People who start crying easily, who are always angry, who are always negative, very irritable. And then wait a minute, then they become depressed, cynical, bitter. What happened to learning how to count your blessings and enjoying life? Is that what it's all about? You're running around and making yourself so exhausted that you don't enjoy life. And that's what stress and burnout is. We have pushed ourselves and we keep on pushing ourselves. And now we've gotten to the point where we don't go to sleep. We're taking pills to go to sleep. Excuse me. All you have to do is learn how to respond to stress in a different way. One of the things I also like about what the word says, and that's in Psalms 46:10, it says, be still and know that I am God. He didn't expect us to run 24/7. There's a reason why he allowed us to go to sleep. There's a reason for a shutdown period. If he wanted us to go 24/7, he would have made us so we didn't have to be renewed. There's a time for us to be renewed, to allow the body to respond to relaxation, to renew it so that we can face the next trials. Learn how to acknowledge him. Learn how to walk in that peace. And remember, you're not of this world. You don't have to respond like the world does to your stresses. Don't go overboard. Learn how to be adaptable. Don't ever extend yourself. And learn how to trust and walk in Jesus, because you are in charge. You're in charge. I hope I've said something that resonates with you just a little bit. You're in charge of your stresses. I hope to come back again to see you, and I hope you enjoyed this session on stress. We'll talk with you soon. I am your hostess again, Evangelist First Lady Vorice Wallace, the Total You. Hello. Welcome to the show, The Total You, the mind, body, soul, and spirit. I am your hostess, Evangelist Vorice Wallace. And I'm here today because I want to talk about something that's become more of an epidemic in our society, and that's type 2 diabetes. Someone asked me, what is it? And no, I'm not a doctor, but it's something we need to know about. So let's look into it, okay? Type 2 diabetes is when the body has a poor job of turning our carbohydrates into energy. And we need the glucose that's in our body that we use for carbohydrates. We need it. Did you know that our brains only really work on the glucose portion? It can't work on the fat that breaks down, but it has to have glucose in order to work efficiently. So when your body is not using the carbohydrates and breaking it down effectively, we can start having a lot of problems. Some of those problems could even lead to heart disease, nerve damage, organ damage, and even some more serious things such as blindness. Okay? And the thing is, a lot of people don't even know they have type 2 diabetes. Okay? Actually, about 1 out of 3 persons may have it, because it's something that we don't, when the person says, I don't have diabetes, and they're not born with it, they don't start looking for it. But we can develop it. Even young children can have type 2 diabetes, okay? So, how do you know if you have the signs and symptoms of type 2 diabetes? There are really no symptoms, but when a person starts increasing their fluid intake and they're always thirsty, what about the fact that they always have that dry mouth? Oh, and they have an increased appetite because they're not able to effectively use those carbohydrates they've taken in. They still think that their body still wants to get more in, so they're eating more. And because you're drinking a lot more fluids, you're going to go to the bathroom a lot more. Usually, as often as every hour. I know a lot of people, well, I drink a lot of water, so I go to the bathroom a lot. Yes. Then you need to check it out and see what's going on. All right? Sometimes a person can have later symptoms. And one of them would be when your blood sugar goes up so high. You start having headaches, blurred vision, a little fatigue. You're just tired all the time. Your brain is on a fog. It can't use the carbohydrates that you've been taking in. All right? What are some other ones? What about a sore that is real slow to heal? In women, what about yeast infections or urinary tract infections? And what about itchy, dry skin? And I'm going to say something and you may not like it, but it can affect your sex lives too. You're so out of it, you have no desires to do anything that normally would be done. We've got to learn how to control ourselves too as far as the foods we eat. We've got to start eating better and healthier, or we can develop type 2 diabetes. So, what do? If you're overweight and you're eating a lot of foods and you're getting kind of chubby around the waistline, or if you're a smoker, or if your lifestyle doesn't include you moving around a lot, wait a minute, if you're eating a lot of red meat, I'm not saying stop eating red meat, but limit your red meat. Limit your processed foods. Limit those fried foods. And please limit those sweets, because they're only contributing to you developing type 2 diabetes. Remind what I said. type 2 diabetes, you're not born with it. You develop it. So you've got control over you getting it. So let's see what we can control and what we can't control. You can't control your ethnicity. If you're Hispanic, you're Hispanic. If you're Native American, you're Native American. If you're Asian, you're Asian. You can't control that. You can't control your family history. If you got a parent or even siblings who've also developed diseases of diabetes. And you definitely can't control how old you are. And we know that the older they get, the more they're more likely to develop diabetes. Why? Because their lifestyles have contributed up to that certain point. Okay? And with women, if they've got gestational diabetes when they had a child, that may predispose them to getting type 2 diabetes too, especially if that baby is born weighing more than 9 pounds. So what do you do about it? If you've been told that you've got type 2 diabetes, a couple of things that you can do. Start exercising is one. It helps your body metabolize those carbohydrates and help your body to start reusing those carbohydrates a little bit more effectively. And they tell you 30 minutes of moderate activity most days a week, that's good, as long as you're not a couch potato. And they've done studies now that 1 minute of strenuous exercise, just 1 minute of strenuous exercise is better than you going out there and walking for 20 minutes because you're getting everything going. 1 minute, that's all it's going to take. Just do something. Okay? We can change our diets. We've told you about that one. Controlling those fast foods. We've been of a society that uses fast foods all the time. And we're constantly going in and getting the hamburgers and the hot dog, no hot dogs, but the hamburgers and the fried chicken. Okay? We've got to learn how to moderate that. And even the fast food places are trying to give you healthy foods. They give you baked chicken sandwich instead of the fried chicken nuggets, all right? Okay? So we've got to learn how to moderate ourselves. But once you've been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, can you not progress to something where you're going to be taking insulin? Yes. But it's up to you. You're in charge of that. So on the next segment, we're going to try to figure out what else they can do to help us with type 2 diabetes. So please stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to The Total You. I'm your hostess, Evangelist Vorice Wallace. Remember, we were talking about diabetes, specifically type 2 diabetes. Now, once you've gone to the doctor does a blood test called the A1C test, just a tube of blood. But that tells the doctor if your levels of glucose in your body are rising. We want to keep it below 5, okay, which is normal. But when you start getting above 5, then you're getting yourself in trouble with your blood levels, and it's going to start causing a lot more problems. Remember we said the blindness? It starts coating the blood vessels of our eyes. It starts coating the blood vessels of our kidneys. It starts causing us to have problems with our kidneys. It starts causing a lot more problems. So we have to keep that level below 5. So what does the doctor do? The doctor can usually prescribe us with pills, okay? So let's go into some of those pills. Science has now gotten it to the point where they have a hormone or man-made hormone that's called the glucagon, I'm getting this right, glucagon-like peptide 1, or the GLP-1. Okay, what does that do? It's almost like insulin would be, but it's in a pill form, okay? So what does this do? It helps us to get our pancreas to release the insulin that's needed to move that blood sugar out of the blood vessels and into our cells, so it's more effective. It spurs the liver to release the stored sugar that we have. So it's working effectively. It's making us a little bit more, it's making the glucose a little bit more accessible to us, okay? And it's not lining our blood vessels anymore because it's now being taken out of the bloodstream and into the cells where it's needed, okay? So one of those drugs is called Tanzium. Okay, so your doctor may put you on the Tanzium. He may also put you on another drug called Byetta. Oh, we really get told that one. And I know you've heard the commercials on TV about Victoza. Okay. And what about Cimetrin? Or Similin, I'm sorry, I said it right. And Trulicity. We've heard of these. These are drugs that the doctor will put you on. And then after about twice a year, the doctor will redraw your A1C levels to see if it's been effective or not. But what if it's not effective? What if you didn't control yourselves with that pill? Or you still continued eating and your A1C is still going up because you didn't really try to exercise and didn't try to change your diet? You didn't try to do anything. You just said, well, I'll just take the pill. No, we've got to be responsible for this. Because if you don't, the next step is insulin. And yes, they'll give you insulin, and you'll have to take that even more so. They can give you the regular acting insulin, which it starts in a few minutes, the short acting insulin, which works for 6 hours, or the intermediate action, which takes 2 to 4 hours to work, or the long acting, which takes the whole day. But see, how many of you really want to take insulin or inject yourselves? If you're in control of this and you don't have to develop type 2 diabetes, why not control yourself? Ooh, that's hard. We've got a lot of people who are now overweight. And I know I'm gaining weight too, so I'm putting myself in that bunch too. But we're in charge of this. We don't have to become type 2 diabetics if we know the signs and symptoms to help ourselves overcome it. I don't want us to be that 1 out of 3 who doesn't know. So I'm going to suggest we go to the doctor. Get ourselves checked out. Start being more active. Start eating healthier. Why? I think I eat pretty good. There was a diet they call the DASH diet. And what is that? You're eating a lot more grains, vegetables, and fruits. You're cutting down on the fats. You're limiting the meats that you eat. You're eating more nuts and seeds. And you're limiting the sweets and the fats. That doesn't really sound that hard. But it's up to you. Put ourselves on a DASH diet. Put ourselves on any kind of diet that stops us from going into type 2 diabetes. It's up to you. I'm going to say this and I'll stay. We are in charge of this body. Your body is a temple. Let's start treating it as such. All right? I hope I've said something that will be helpful to you and continue to learn about type 2 diabetes. You're in charge of this. This is your hostess, Evangelist Vorice Wallace, on The Total You. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.
Hi everybody, I'm telling you everything that happened to me that was good, God did it. I'm Evelyn Turrentine AG and you're watching the Bell Global Network.
This is Pastor D. Alexander Bullock of Preachers of Detroit and you're watching the Bell Global Network.
This is Bishop Edgar Van of Second Ebenezer Church in Detroit, Michigan, and you're watching the Bell Global Network.
Hi, I'm Bernadette Stannis. You know me best as Thelma from the TV show Good Times, and you are watching Bell Global Network.